I didn't realize my life wasn't mine until the day I sat alone, holding a shirt that belonged to someone who was never coming back. It was folded neatly, the way she always folded things. I don't know why I picked it up. I just stood there, feeling something heavy settle inside me. Not grief exactly, something slower, something like understanding. Arriving too late. I'm 84 years old now. People usually smile when I say that. They tell me I must have many stories. I do, but most of them are about days that look the same, and choices I didn't notice I was making. When I was a boy, life was simple and narrow. My parents didn't talk about happiness. They talked about work, about responsibility, about not wasting what you had. We weren't poor, but we were careful. Careful with money, careful with words, careful with feelings. I learned early that the best thing you could be was reliable. At school, I stayed quiet. I did what I was told. Teachers liked me because I didn't cause trouble. No one ever asked me what I dreamed about. And if they had, I don't think I would have known how to answer. Dreaming felt like something other people did. When it was time to work, I didn't hesitate. I took the first steady job I could find. The days were long but predictable. Wake up before the sun, wash up, eat quickly, catch the bus, stand, lift, repeat. Come home tired, eat dinner, sit in a chair, sleep. I told myself this was adulthood. I told myself this was enough. I married young. She was gentle. She laughed quietly. We didn't talk about big things. We talked about what was for dinner, what needed fixing, how much was left after bills. It felt responsible. People said we were sensible together. I took that as a compliment. Our life settled into a rhythm. Morning routines, evenings in front of the television, weekends spent catching up on chores. Sometimes we talked, often we didn't. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was just there. Like furniture, you stop noticing. Years passed without asking permission. I didn't feel them leaving. I kept telling myself there would be time later, time to slow down, time to ask questions, time to live differently if I wanted to. Later always felt close enough. We had children. Holding them for the first time felt important, but also frightening. Suddenly, everything I did mattered more. I worked harder. I stayed longer hours. I told myself I was doing this for them, and maybe I was. But I also liked knowing exactly what my role was. Provider, fixer, the one who kept things running. I went to school events when work allowed. I nodded when they talked about their days. I listened, but not deeply. I thought being there was enough. I didn't realize how much can be missed while standing right in front of someone. The house was loud when the kids were young. Then, slowly, it wasn't. One by one, they grew up. They left. The rooms changed purpose. Their laughter faded into memory. I felt proud watching them go, but also strangely hollow. I didn't know what to do with that feeling, so I ignored it. Work filled the space. Promotions came. More responsibility. More respect. People needed me. That felt good. It gave shape to my days. I didn't notice how much of myself I handed over to that place. Then my wife started getting tired. At first it was small things. She rested more. She skipped meals. Doctors' offices became familiar. I still went to work. I thought that was what strength looked like. When she died, the house changed overnight. Not dramatically, just quietly. Her chair stayed empty. Her cup stayed where she left it. I realized I didn't know how she liked her tea. I had shared a life with her and missed details that now felt important. I didn't fall apart. I kept moving. That was always my way. But something had shifted. A question I had avoided for decades was finally waiting for me, patient and unkind. And that's where this part of the story pauses, because what came next didn't happen all at once. It crept in slowly, the way truth often does when there's nowhere left to run. After she was gone, I thought the hardest part would be learning how to live alone. I was wrong. The hardest part was realizing how much of my life had been spent not paying attention. I retired a few years later. 65. People shook my hand and told me I'd earned my rest. There was a small cake, a few speeches. I smiled in the photos. The next morning, I woke up early out of habit, got dressed, and then stood in the kitchen with nowhere to go. That was the first time I felt truly lost. The days stretched out in front of me, wide and empty. I tried to fill them. I watched more television. I took walks around the neighborhood. I read the newspaper from front to back. None of it felt wrong. None of it felt right either. Without work, I wasn't sure who I was supposed to be. Here's something I didn't expect. When life slowed down, the memories got louder. I started thinking about moments I hadn't thought about in years. Conversations I rushed through. Evenings I chose rest over connection. Times my wife had wanted to talk and I said, later. I always believed there would be more later. My children visited when they could. They were kind. They asked how I was. I told them I was fine, because that's what I had always said. I didn't know how to explain the feeling that something had slipped through my hands without making a sound. Then a friend from my old job died. We had worked side by side for decades. We used to say we'd meet for coffee after retirement. We said it so many times it felt like a promise. We never kept it. Standing at his funeral, listening to people talk about him, I realized how easily someday disappears. That was the second hook, though I didn't recognize it at the time. It was the moment I understood that planning to live later is not the same as living. My body began to slow down too, small aches at first, then bigger ones. Doctor visits became routine. I noticed how often the waiting rooms were full of people staring at the floor, all of us pretending we had more time than we did. I spent more afternoons sitting by the window, watching strangers pass by, young couples arguing softly, parents pulling children along, old men like me moving carefully. I wondered how many of them were living the life they wanted and how many were simply continuing a path they'd never stopped to question. One evening, I found myself opening old drawers, papers, photos, things I'd saved without knowing why. There was a picture of me as a young man. I looked serious, careful, afraid of making the wrong move. I realized something then that was hard to accept. No one stole my life from me. I gave it away, slowly, in exchange for safety, for approval, for the comfort of knowing what came next. I thought that was maturity. I thought that was being responsible. This realization didn't come with tears or anger, just a quiet heaviness, a sense that I had followed instructions so well that I forgot to ask who wrote them. Now, at 84, my days are simple. I make my meals. I clean slowly. I rest often. Sometimes the phone rings. Sometimes it doesn't. I've learned that regret isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It sits beside you and waits. If I could speak to the younger version of myself, I wouldn't yell at him. I would just ask him one question. Is this really the life you want, or just the one you're used to? Time feels different now. It no longer stretches. It gathers. It reminds me that people matter more than routines, and moments matter more than plans. If you're listening to this and something feels familiar, don't rush past that feeling. Call someone you've been meaning to call. Sit with someone a little longer. Say the thing you keep saving for later. Later is quieter than you think. If you want to, share your story in the comments. Sometimes putting words to it helps. And if you know someone who might need to hear this, send it to them. You can subscribe too, if you'd like to stay a while. I'll keep talking as long as time allows. After a while, the days began to blur. Monday felt like Thursday. Morning felt like afternoon. I stopped checking the calendar because it only reminded me how little I was doing with the time it showed. People think loneliness is dramatic, that it comes with tears or despair. For me, it didn't. It came quietly, like dust settling on things I no longer used. The extra chair at the table, the second cup in the cupboard, the jacket still hanging by the door, untouched. I started eating simpler meals. Toast, soup, things that didn't require effort. Sometimes I'd stand in the kitchen and forget why I went there. That scared me more than I wanted to admit. Not because of forgetting, but because it felt like pieces of me were slowly letting go. I tried reaching out more. Short phone calls, polite conversations. People were busy. I understood that. I had been busy once too. I didn't blame anyone. Still, when the line went quiet, the house seemed to lean in closer, like it was listening. Some evenings, I turned off the television just to hear the silence clearly. I wanted to know what it felt like without distractions. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't painful either. It was honest. That's when I began thinking about all the moments I rushed through. I remembered coming home tired and answering questions without really listening. I remembered nodding instead of asking, choosing rest over connection. Not because I didn't care, but because I thought there would always be another chance. Here's the part that's hardest to admit. I didn't avoid my own life because I was unhappy. I avoided it because it felt easier not to look too closely. One afternoon, my daughter visited. She noticed how quiet I was. She asked if I was okay. I said yes, like always. Then she hugged me before leaving, longer than usual. When the door closed, I sat down and realized I couldn't remember the last time I let someone see how tired I was of being strong. That moment stayed with me. Another hook came weeks later in the smallest way possible. I was cleaning out a drawer and found an old notebook. Nothing important inside, just numbers. Notes. A few sentences written years ago. One line stopped me. I don't remember writing it. It said, "I'll do what I want later." Later never came. I sat there for a long time, holding that notebook, feeling like I was reading something written by a stranger. A man who thought time was patient, a man who didn't know how quickly habits turn into a lifetime. I began to understand that my life wasn't shaped by one big mistake. It was shaped by hundreds of small decisions to stay comfortable, to stay quiet, to stay safe. There were things I wanted once, not big dreams, simple ones. To talk more, to say no sometimes, to ask questions even if they led nowhere. I let those wants fade because they didn't fit neatly into my days. Now, when I think back, the memories that hurt the most aren't failures. They're the moments I was absent while being present, sitting at the table but somewhere else, standing beside people I loved but already thinking about what came next. My body reminds me daily that time is shorter now. I move slower. I rest more. Some mornings I wake up and feel grateful just to be here. Other mornings I feel the weight of everything I didn't do. I don't hate my life. That surprises people when I say it. I just recognize it. I see it clearly now, without the rush, without the noise, and clarity. When it comes late, it can feel heavy. I still watch people from the window. I still wonder about their lives. Sometimes I imagine telling them to stop, to notice, to choose more carefully. But I don't say anything. Everyone has to arrive at understanding in their own time. Some nights I talk out loud even when no one is there. Not to anyone specific, just to the room. I say the things I never practiced saying before. It feels strange, but it also feels real. I'm not looking for redemption. I'm not trying to rewrite the past. I'm simply sitting with the truth of it, letting it be what it is. And the truth is this: a life can be full and still feel borrowed. You can do everything expected of you and still feel like you were visiting, not living. This part of my story doesn't end with clarity or peace. It ends with awareness. And that awareness changes the way I see every remaining day. Because now, when the phone rings, I answer it slowly. When someone speaks, I try to stay. When a thought comes, I don't push it away so quickly. There isn't much time left to become someone new, but there is time to be honest. And for now, that's enough.